My father disowned me on Thanksgiving for his new influencer wife. Now he's broke, alone, and begging me to forgive him. I, 22 million, need to give you guys some background before I dive into this absolute train wreck. I grew up in suburban Ohio, in the most average middle-class life you could imagine. We lived in one of those cookie-cutter neighborhoods where all the houses look the same, and everyone pretends they're living the American dream. Dad worked in corporate sales for some tech company. Nothing fancy, just your basic office supplies and software kind of deal. Mom was a middle school teacher until everything went sideways with Aunt Rachel. Quick thing about Aunt Rachel, she was Mom's older sister and seriously the most badass woman I've ever known. She dominated the real estate market in our area back in the 90s and 2000s. She had this reputation for being tough but fair, and basically, everyone who bought a house within 50 miles knew her name. She was also the reason I got interested in business. She used to quiz me about market trends and investment strategies when other kids were playing video games. Honestly, I wish I'd paid more attention to those lessons now. Anyway, life was pretty normal until about 2 years ago. I was in my second year of business school at the local state university. Nothing fancy, but a decent enough program. My grades were good, I had a solid group of friends, and I was even doing some social media management for a few local businesses on the side. Then Dad had what I can only describe as the world's most predictable midlife crisis. He met Sarah at some corporate event in Cincinnati, where she was working as a brand ambassador, aka standing around looking pretty while promoting whatever product was sponsoring the event. She was 25 at the time. Yeah, you read that right, 3 years older than me. Like what the heck, Dad? The speed at which everything fell apart still gives me whiplash. Within 3 months of meeting Sarah, Dad moved out of our house and filed for divorce. No counseling, no trying to work things out, nothing. He just packed his bags one Tuesday after work and said he'd found his true happiness or some Hallmark movie nonsense like that. Mom took it hard, but she didn't really have time to process it because Aunt Rachel had just been diagnosed with early onset dementia. The timing couldn't have been worse. Mom quit her teaching job to become Aunt Rachel's full-time caregiver, which meant our family income basically disappeared overnight. That's how I ended up living with Dad and Sarah. The dorms were expensive as heck, and Dad promised to help with my business degree if I gave Sarah a chance to be part of the family. Yeah, typing that out makes me realize how stupid I was to believe him. Living with them was like being stuck in some wannabe influencer's personal hell. Sarah was constantly trying to build her personal brand on Instagram. I'm talking daily workout routines filmed in our living room, morning motivation reels in the kitchen, and these super awkward blended family posts where she'd basically force me to be in the background. She even tried to get me to call her bonus mom once. I nearly threw up in my mouth. Our house became like a permanent film set. You couldn't walk anywhere without running into ring lights or tripods. She converted the spare bedroom into her content creation space, aka a room full of mirrors and those LED strip lights that change color. Dad just went along with all of it like he was hypnotized or something. The worst part was watching Dad change. He used to be this pretty chill guy who loved watching football and grilling on weekends. Suddenly, he's going to CrossFit at 5 in the morning, getting spray tans, and talking about his personal journey. He even started his own Instagram account, Cringe, where he'd post motivational quotes and gym selfies. Like, who even was this guy anymore? Sarah's influence was everywhere. She redecorated the entire house in this modern minimalist style that looked like a Pinterest board threw up. Everything had to be white, beige, or earth tones. My dad's beloved recliner, gone. The family photos from my childhood, replaced with generic, abstract art and those stupid live, laugh, love signs. I tried to stay out of their way as much as possible, spending most of my time either at school or in my room, which, thankfully, Sarah deemed too dark for her aesthetic. Thank God for small mercies. But you can only avoid people for so long when you live in the same house. The tension was always there, just under the surface. Sarah would make these passive-aggressive comments about my negative energy ruining her vibe, or how my presence in her videos was affecting her engagement rates. Dad would just sit there, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to hear any of it. Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. The signs were all there. The way they'd stop talking when I walked into a room, how Sarah kept talking about needing more space for her business, the weird looks they'd give each other during dinner. But I was naive enough to think that blood meant something, that my dad wouldn't just throw away 22 years of being my father for some Instagram-obsessed wannabe influencer. Boy, was I wrong. So, after 3 months of living in influencer hell, Thanksgiving rolled around. Sarah's family insisted on hosting at their McMansion in the nice part of town. You know, where people buy those huge houses they can barely afford just to show off. Her family is exactly what you'd expect. Her dad owns like 3 car dealerships and never shuts up about it. Her mom's face hasn't moved since 2010, thanks to Botox. And her siblings are these trust fund brats who've never worked a real job. I didn't want to go, but Dad was still helping with my business degree, so I didn't have much choice. The moment I pulled up in my beat-up Honda Civic, which looked real nice next to their fleet of luxury cars by the way, I knew this was going to be a show. First red flag, apparently it was a formal dinner. Nobody told me, so here I am, walking in wearing jeans and my favorite hoodie, while everyone else is dressed like they're attending the freaking Met Gala. Sarah's mom took one look at me and did this thing where she smiled with her mouth, but her eyes said trash. You know that look. The house was straight out of a home decorating magazine, not in a good way. Everything was white or beige, and there were these huge photos of Sarah everywhere. Her modeling shots, her influencer pics, even some professional family photos they'd already taken with my dad. Weird thing? Not a single photo had me in it. I should have seen that as a warning sign, I guess. The awkwardness started right away. Sarah's mom, let's call her Karen because that's exactly what she is, kept introducing me as Mike's son from his previous situation, not even using my name, just Mike's son, like I was some kind of furniture they inherited, and didn't know where to put. They sat me at the far end of this massive dining table, next to Sarah's 12-year-old cousin, who spent the entire time playing Fortnite under the table. The good news? I was far enough away that I didn't have to make small talk. The bad news? I could hear everything they were saying about me. Some gems from their conversations, poor Mike, dealing with, baggage from before. At least the son isn't living with them permanently, right? Sarah's such a saint for handling this situation so gracefully. I kept my head down and focused on my food. The turkey was dry, by the way, but I wasn't about to complain. Sarah's mom probably paid some fancy catering service a fortune to make it taste that bland. Dad just sat there, nodding along to everything, laughing at their stupid jokes, trying so hard to fit in with these people. Then Sarah started doing her thing, the influencer performance. She was filming everything for her content: Thanksgiving prep, table settings, the perfect family dinner. She made everyone pause before eating so she could get the right angle of the food for her Instagram. She even had a ring light set up at the table. I wish I was making this up. I was just trying to survive dinner without causing a scene. I had my phone ready with a fake emergency text in case I needed to bail. But then Dad stands up, tapping his wine glass like he's about to announce he's found the cure for cancer. The room goes quiet. Sarah is sitting there with this Cheshire cat grin, one hand on her pregnant belly, which she made sure was visible in every single photo, obviously. I noticed she'd positioned herself perfectly in the light for whatever social media post was coming. As you all know, Dad starts, trying to sound all formal and important. Sarah and I are expecting a beautiful addition to our family. Everyone does this fake gasp, like they didn't already know. Sarah's been documenting every second of her pregnancy on Instagram since the test turned positive. But something felt off. Dad looked nervous. Not happy nervous, like you'd expect from a guy announcing a baby, but like he was about to do something he knew was wrong. He kept glancing at me, then looking away real quick. I'm sitting there thinking, maybe I should have faked that emergency after all. The fork in my hand is starting to bend from how hard I'm gripping it. Sarah's family is all leaning in, like they're about to watch their favorite reality TV show reach its dramatic climax. That's when Dad drops the bomb that changed everything. But let me tell you, what happened next makes this dinner look like a picnic. So Dad's standing there, wine glass in hand, looking like he's about to tell everyone he has 3 months to live. Sarah's still got that smug smile plastered on her face, rubbing her belly like it's a magic lamp. The rest of her family is practically salivating, waiting for whatever bomb's about to drop. As we prepare to welcome our little miracle, Dad continues, his voice shaking a bit. Sarah and I have been doing a lot of thinking about our future. At this point, Sarah's mom is literally on the edge of her seat, phone ready to record whatever's coming next. With the baby coming, we need to make some adjustments to our living situation. He pauses, probably for dramatic effect. Or maybe Sarah directed this whole speech. I wouldn't put it past her. Our home needs to be a nurturing space for our new family. I'm sitting there thinking he's going to announce they're moving or something. We had a 4-bedroom house, master bedroom, my room, Sarah's content creation studio, and a guest room. Plenty of space for a nursery, right? Wrong. Joseph, he says, finally looking at me directly. You're an adult now, and with the baby coming, we think it's time for you to find your own place. The silence that followed lasted maybe 2 seconds, but it felt like forever. Then Sarah's family erupts in actual applause, like they're at a golf tournament or something. It's about time, Sarah's mom stage whispers to her husband. A fresh start is exactly what they need. Sarah's dad stands up, raising his glass to new beginnings and fresh starts. Everyone joins in, clinking glasses like they're celebrating something amazing, instead of watching a father kick out his own son. I'm just sitting there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, trying to process what just happened. The mashed potatoes on my plate suddenly look like the most interesting thing in the world because if I look up, I might actually lose it. But Sarah's not done. Oh no, she has to twist the knife a little more. We're turning your room into the nursery, she announces, phone in hand, probably already drafting her next Instagram post. I've already picked out the most adorable theme, neutral tones with gold accents. It's going to be absolutely perfect. That's when I realized why some of my stuff had been disappearing over the past few weeks. Sarah had already been clearing out my room, piece by piece, those missing photos, my old baseball trophies, the vintage band posters, all gone, probably in some dumpster because they didn't fit her aesthetic. Dad must have seen something in my face because he quickly adds, "We'll help you with the transition, of course. You have until the end of the month to find a place." The end of the month. 2 weeks. He was giving me 2 weeks to completely uproot my life. Sarah's sister, who'd been quiet until now, pipes up. "You know, my friend's building has some affordable units," she says, pronouncing affordable like it's a dirty word. "They're small, but for someone in your situation," I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed my chair back, probably scratched their precious hardwood floor. "Thanks for dinner," I managed to say without my voice cracking. "Congratulations on the baby." As I'm walking out, I hear Sarah's mom, "Well, that went better than expected. He took it quite maturely." Then Sarah, "Thank God. I was worried he'd make a scene. This will make such a great story for my blended family journey series." I made it to my car before the reality hit me. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to find a place, move out, and somehow keep up with my classes and part-time job, all because Daddy's new wife needed a nursery. The real kicker? I found out later that Sarah had been planning this for months. She'd been posting these subtle hints on her Instagram about making space for baby and clearing out negative energy. Her followers ate it up, commenting things like, "So brave and you're such an amazing stepmom." So, after getting kicked out at Thanksgiving, life got real interesting, real quick. And by interesting, I mean it sucked majorly. I found this tiny studio apartment in the sketchy part of town. You know, the kind of place where the landlord says it has character, but what he really means is the neighbors might be cooking meth. $600 a month, which was all I could afford. The whole place was maybe 300 square feet, and the bathroom had this weird smell that no amount of bleach could kill. My new home came with some interesting features: mysterious stains on the carpet that definitely weren't there during the viewing, a neighbor who practiced drums at 3 in the morning, and a window that didn't quite close all the way. But hey, beggars can't be choosers when you've got 2 weeks to find a place, right? I started working nights at McDonald's because they were the only place desperate enough to work around my class schedule. Let me tell you about the night shift at Mickey D's. It's like a crash course in human psychology, except everyone's drunk, high, or both. I had this one regular who'd come in at 2 in the morning every Tuesday, order 40 nuggets, and eat them while crying in the corner. I never asked him what his story was. We all have our struggles, you know. During the day, I was doing DoorDash deliveries in my beat-up Civic. That car was a trooper, 230,000 miles and counting, held together by duct tape and prayers. The heat only worked when it felt like it, and the check engine light had been on so long, I'm pretty sure it was load-bearing at this point. Between classes, deliveries, and McDonald's, I was sleeping maybe 4 hours a night, living off energy drinks and those sketchy gas station pills that truckers use. My diet consisted of whatever McDonald's food was about to expire and the cheapest ramen I could find. I'm pretty sure my blood was 90% sodium at this point. Meanwhile, Mom was dealing with her own nightmare. Aunt Rachel's dementia was getting worse by the day. Remember how I said she was this badass real estate agent? Now she couldn't remember which house was hers. She'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking she had to show properties. Try to leave the house in her pajamas. Mom had to install those child locks on all the doors. The hardest part was watching Aunt Rachel during her lucid moments. She'd suddenly snap back to her old self, realize what was happening to her, and just break down. This woman who used to close million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, crying because she couldn't remember how to use a phone. I tried to help Mom when I could, but between work and classes, I was barely keeping my own head above water. My grades started slipping. Turns out, it's pretty hard to focus on business strategy when you're running on fumes and living off McChickens. My friends tried to help, but there's only so much they could do. Most of them were dealing with their own college broke life drama. A few offered their couches, but I was too proud to take them up on it. Stupid, looking back, but when you've hit rock bottom, sometimes pride is all you've got left. The whole time Sarah's out there living her best Instagram life. She posted this whole series about designing the nursery, my old room, talking about transforming negative spaces into positive energy or some nonsense like that. She even had the nerve to post a before pic of my room, calling it cluttered and chaotic. Yeah, because heaven forbid a room look lived in. Dad? Radio silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. The only contact I had with him was when he Venmo'd me $200 with the message for moving expenses. $200. That's what 22 years of being his son was worth. Some nights, sitting in my sketchy apartment, eating cold fries from work, I'd scroll through Sarah's Instagram, watching them set up the nursery, seeing Dad paint the walls in his new weekend dad outfit, hearing Sarah talk about how excited she was to start their family, like I was never part of any family to begin with. But rock bottom has a way of teaching you things, like how many packets of hot sauce you need to make plain rice edible, answer 6, or how to time your showers with the neighbor's water usage so you actually get some pressure, or which gas stations have the cleanest bathrooms when you're between deliveries. Most importantly, it taught me who really had my back. The McDonald's manager who would accidentally make extra food at the end of my shift so I could take it home, the other DoorDash drivers who shared tips about which orders to avoid, my professors who gave me extensions when they saw me falling asleep in class. Little did I know, life was about to throw me another curveball. But this one would change everything. Things were about as bad as they could get when life decided to throw me the mother of all plot twists. I got a call from Mom one morning. Between my McDonald's shift and my first delivery run, Aunt Rachel had passed away in her sleep. Just gone. No drama, no prolonged hospital stay. She just went to bed and never woke up. Maybe it was better that way. The funeral was small, just Mom, me, a few old friends from her real estate days, and some distant relatives who probably only showed up to see if they were in the will. Dad didn't come. He sent a generic sorry for your loss text though, so there's that, I guess. A week after the funeral, Mom and I got called to this lawyer's office downtown. Not going to lie, I was barely paying attention during most of the meeting, running on 2 hours of sleep and trying to figure out how I was going to make rent that month. But then the lawyer says something that makes me snap awake real quick. To my nephew, Joseph, he reads from Aunt Rachel's will, "I leave my house and $48,000. I legit thought I was hallucinating from sleep deprivation. I made the lawyer repeat it twice. Here's the kicker, there was a note attached, written during one of her lucid moments according to the date. It said, "Do with it as you wish, just don't disappoint me." That hit me like a ton of bricks. Even with her mind slipping away, Aunt Rachel had been watching everything go down with Dad and Sarah. She'd seen me struggling, seen how they'd thrown me away like yesterday's trash, and in her final act of clarity, she decided to throw me a lifeline. Mom started crying right there in the lawyer's office. Not going to lie, I teared up too. The lawyer pretended to be really interested in his paperwork until we got ourselves together. But here's where it gets interesting. Word travels fast in small towns, and somehow, news of the inheritance made its way back to Dad and Sarah. Suddenly my phone's blowing up with texts from Dad. "Hey son, haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're doing okay. We should catch up soon, grab lunch maybe. Your room, the nursery's coming along great. You should come see it. Like seriously? Radio silence for months, and now he wants to play happy families? Sarah even slid into my DMs, first time she'd acknowledged my existence since Thanksgiving, with some nonsense about healing family bonds and fresh starts. The best part? They had no idea how much Aunt Rachel left me. The rumor mill had probably inflated it to some massive amount. Sarah probably thought she could get enough for a year's worth of Botox and designer baby clothes. I left them on read. Petty, maybe? Satisfying? Absolutely. I started getting random friend requests from Sarah's family too. The same people who'd basically celebrated my homelessness at Thanksgiving were now trying to act like we were close relatives. Sarah's mom even sent me this long message about how she'd always seen me as part of the family, and how money shouldn't come between us. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my sketchy studio apartment, eating my last package of ramen, looking at my bank account that's finally not in single digits. The irony was thick enough to choke on. I called my landlord that night and gave my notice. Dude actually looked disappointed, probably because I was one of the few tenants who paid rent on time and didn't cook meth. Mom tried to convince me to use the money for school. That's what Rachel would have wanted, she said. But I had other plans. See, Aunt Rachel didn't just leave me money, she left me a lesson. All those times she talked to me about business, about building something of my own. It finally clicked. I took most of the money and gave it to Mom. She tried to refuse, but I wasn't having it. I told her Aunt Rachel would have wanted her to have it. Plus, after everything she'd been through with the divorce and taking care of Aunt Rachel, she deserved it. But Dad and Sarah? They weren't done yet. Not by a long shot. They had one more play to make, and honestly, it was even more pathetic than I expected. I got this text from Dad about a month after the inheritance news broke. Hey son, we need to talk. Important family stuff. Come over for dinner. Against my better judgment and Mom's advice, I decided to go. Curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see what kind of nonsense they'd try to pull. I pulled up to their house on a Sunday evening. First thing I noticed, Dad's fancy new BMW was gone, replaced by some basic Hyundai. Interesting. Sarah answered the door with this baby I'd never seen before. Guess she'd given birth while I was busy being homeless. The house looked different too. Gone were all the expensive decorations, and that pretentious modern art Sarah loved so much. The walls were weirdly bare, like they'd been selling stuff off. But Sarah was still trying to keep up appearances, had her phone set up on a tripod in the corner, probably trying to milk this family reunion for content. Dad looked rough. Like, rough. The spray tan was gone, replaced by this weird pale look. No more designer clothes either, just regular dad jeans and a polo that had seen better days. But the biggest change? The look in his eyes. That smug confidence was gone, replaced by something desperate. Joseph, he started, trying to sound casual and failing hard. You look good. Business school treating you well? Like he gave a hoot about my education after cutting me off. I just nodded, waiting for them to get to the point. Sarah jumped in, bouncing the baby on her hip. We've been doing a lot of thinking about family lately, about healing and moving forward. She had this fake, sincere voice that probably works great on Instagram but sounds like nails on a chalkboard in real life. Then Dad dropped the bombshell. I'm going to be straight with you. Things have been tough lately. The company did some restructuring and, well... He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. Turns out restructuring meant he got demoted hard, from regional sales director to basic sales rep. His salary got cut by more than half. But wait, it gets better. Sarah's influencer career wasn't paying the bills. Shocker. Apparently, her follower count had been dropping ever since she had the baby, something about her aesthetic not being the same. She actually tried to explain this to me, like it was some kind of tragedy. We're family, Dad said, leaning forward. And family helps each other out. I know your aunt left you some money. I cut him off right there. No. The look on his face was priceless, like he couldn't process someone telling him no. Sarah started this whole speech about investment opportunities and mutual benefit. But I just stood up and walked out. But wait. The karma train wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I get this frantic call from one of Dad's old work friends. Turns out Sarah had been DMing some rich real estate developer from Miami. Not just DMing, if you catch my drift. The baby? Yeah, not Dad's. A paternity test confirmed it. The whole time she was posting about their miracle baby and their perfect family, she'd been planning her exit strategy. Sarah ghosted with the baby one weekend while Dad was at work, left nothing but a note and an empty closet. Moved straight to Miami with her new sugar daddy. Even posted about it on Instagram, starting my new chapter. Sometimes you have to choose yourself. Dad showed up at our door about a week later, looking like a homeless person's before picture. Kept talking about second chances and forgiveness and family. Mom opened the door, took one look at him, and said, "No." I stood behind her and didn't say a word. We watched him walk back to his Hyundai, shoulders slumped, looking every bit like the sad middle-aged man he was. Last we heard, he's living in some small town, working as a junior sales rep at an office supply company. Sarah's living it up in Miami, posting about her authentic life journey or whatever. The baby's apparently calling her new man daddy now. And me? Well, karma might be harsh, but she's got one heck of a sense of humor. This blew up while I was at work. Rest in peace, my inbox. Edit 2. No. I don't have screenshots of Sarah's posts. I blocked her on everything. Edit 3. Stop asking for Sarah's handle. She's not worth your time, trust me. Final update. It's been a year since everything went down, and honestly, life's pretty darn good. I finished my business degree while working at this marketing agency downtown. Started as an intern, but they liked my ideas and brought me on full-time. Now I'm handling social media strategies for actual businesses, not just posting thirst traps and motivation quotes like some people I know, LOL. I moved into Aunt Rachel's house with Mom, fixed it up nice, nothing fancy, but it feels like home. Mom's working at this nonprofit helping families dealing with dementia. I think it helps her process everything that happened with Aunt Rachel. She's smiling again, which is worth more than any inheritance. The $48,000 from Aunt Rachel? Most of it went to Mom, despite her protests. I told her it's what Rachel would have wanted. I used the rest to start my own thing on the side, a digital marketing consultancy focusing on small businesses. Already got 3 regular clients. Aunt Rachel would have loved that. She always said the best revenge is building something of your own. Got this text from Dad last week, "Miss you, son. Made a lot of mistakes. Can we talk?" Left him on read. Sarah's still in Miami, posting about her authentic journey and living her truth. Her latest post was about forgiveness and letting go of toxic situations. Rich, coming from someone who baby-trapped my dad, then dipped with her affair partner's kid. Sometimes I think about that Thanksgiving dinner, how everything felt like it was falling apart. Funny how life works. They thought they were ruining me, but they actually set me free. I don't have to pretend to care about Sarah's follower count or Dad's midlife crisis anymore. Mom said something pretty deep the other day. Some families you're born into, others you build. She's right. I got my mom, my real friends who stuck around, even my weird McDonald's work family. Shout out to Dave, who always hooked me up with extra fries during those rough months. The other day, I drove past our old house. Dad's BMW used to sit in that driveway like some kind of trophy. Now there's a young family living there, kids playing in the yard, looking actually happy, not Instagram fake happy, but real happy. Aunt Rachel used to say success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. Took me a while to get that, but now I get it. Got a meeting tomorrow with a potential new client. Life's not perfect, but it's real, and that's worth more than all of Sarah's Instagram followers combined.